What's up? It's me, Tommy Mac. In this video, we're gonna be talking marking and measuring and the tools that I use to do that. You can see that I got a whole bunch of them. You can see on my bench kind of like what I got going on. I have quite a bit of stuff. The first thing I'm gonna do is start out with this big chunk of wood and trying to interpret this board. This is the most important aspect of being a furniture maker because I know there are billions of pieces of wood like this, but this is the only one like this. And I want to have the same consistencies in my furniture as in this piece of wood. So this is where I mentally start to build my piece of furniture, and I'm gonna mentally break this piece apart and then we're gonna put it together in a totally different sequence, but I want it to all look the same. It doesn't need to be that accurate. What I'm trying to do is just, like I said, I'm trying to visualize my parts. Now, just for instance, say I'm building one of my kitchen stools. I'm gonna make some 24-inch legs, all right? I'm gonna come down and I'm just gonna say, I'm gonna mark like 26 inches, all right? I know that I need 2 inches, and I know that like the outside of this board is gonna give me the best material for, you know, the legs. And how do I know that? It's because this ain't the first time I've done this, you know what I mean? So look it, I'm just gonna measure 2 inches and I'm just gonna scribble down on both sides like this. And it's gonna be really cool to get like that kind of grain pattern because I already know that these two are riffs on, you know what I mean? Inside here, I know that it's wide enough to make a rail. So I'm gonna write rail, I'm gonna write leg, right? I'm gonna write leg on this one, and then I'm gonna put an arrow on it to make sure all this stuff is going in the same direction. You know, I might have 3 boards that I need to do this with, so I would go through this entire process until I know exactly where my parts are coming from on this board. Once I get this down, I need it to be a little more accurate. So I'm gonna pick up a square and just a regular old cap and a pencil, all right? And now I can make a more accurate mark like this. Again, since I'm just gonna cut this apart, it don't have to be that accurate. And then I'm gonna either use a skill saw or a chop saw or whatever. I'm gonna bust this whole thing apart. I'm gonna mill it down until it becomes, you know, something that looks like this. It's still gonna be rough milling, which is 1 inch longer, 1/2 inch wider, and a little bit thicker. So now spray on this carbon pencil, and that tape ain't gonna cut it for the accuracy that I'm trying to get as a furniture maker. So let me lock this bad boy in. From here on out, I always use a ruler because I just don't trust the tape at this point. Rulers come in 2-footers and 3-footers so I can really get accurate measurement. So you just hold it on the edge of the board and say I want the final dimension of this board to be 15 inches. Hang on. I need to get the other important thing around here. The spectacles, you know what I mean? Okay, that's close to 15. So there we go. Now I can just take a combination square. It's called a combination square because it has a 45 on one side and 90 on the other. And I can make a mark like so. Now, to be honest with you, you can still see that that pencil line is still pretty thick, and it's good enough when I'm cutting up parts and getting down to final milling, but this is just for me to mentally understand what I'm doing. And then I'm gonna write whatever part this is, and I'm gonna keep the arrow on it with pencil. But once I need to start doing some joinery, this pencil ain't gonna cut it. So I have this little sharpener in my pocket at all times. Rachel's always giving me a hard time because I forget about them and leave them in the laundry. I can get a nice sharp point on this, and this is really important when it comes to doing joinery, so I can get more accurate measurements. It's pretty sharp, right? Watch this. If I draw a line, you can see the difference between the line that I drew first and the second one. And look at that line. That is like 3/32. And when I first started making furniture, I thought that that was more than enough, but it's not. And to do really accurate joinery, grab a piece of sandpaper like this and watch. I can get that pencil line even finer. Now you can see the difference between the line that I drew first and the one that I just made. It's really razor thin. And believe it or not, as a furniture maker, that line ain't accurate enough for me. That's why we have marking knives. And it's taken me a long time to learn how to use a marking knife and get good at it. But the great thing about a knife is that since it cuts the wood, it allows me to use like a chisel or a saw to make sure that I can land where I want to land it. So I have 3 of them. The first one is a little thicker, and I used it for a while, but to be honest with you, I just wasn't able to master using this one, and I struggled for a long time, mostly because when I held it up against my straight edge like this, it would wander, right? And it caused more problems than I care to admit, so I just got rid of it. Then I picked up this one right here. This is a scalpel, and it's really thin, and it's wicked, wicked sharp, but it's a little bit spongy. You can see I can move it around, but when I'm careful with it, I can make a really nice knife line. The third one is this really cool one right here. This is like the old school market knife, and it's beautiful and elegant, but I don't know if I can get used to my hand being so far away from the edge, but I do like it because it makes a really nice knife line. So let me show you what the knife line actually looks like compared to the pencil line. I'm just gonna go right next to the pencil line. I'm gonna pick up the knife I'm most used to using, and I'm gonna draw a line. You can definitely see the difference between the first line that I drew and the knife line right here. And this is the level of accuracy that we're trying to get to as furniture makers. I mean, this is like within thousandths of an inch. But a knife isn't the only thing that I use for marking materials. Everything that you can see on my bench, I use all this stuff all the time. This is the bevel that allows me to get really accurate angles. I can do any angle in the world with this. I have a pair of dividers, and this allows me to get really beautiful, easy increments when I'm doing things like dovetails. I got another little combo square, and I have a compass so I can draw circles. Now, one of my favorite things that I have here on my bench is the old Mac and Gauge. It has a knife on the end, and it has this right here. You see how it moves around like that? And what this does is when I need to have accurate measurements on two separate pieces of wood, this is the thing that I use every time. So check this out. Basically, it's a knife line, so I can just go right off the end or the edge of a board, just like that. And I'd be able to use this on like a corresponding piece, so this measurement is super accurate. It's taken me literally years to get really good at using and understanding everything that's on this bench. But trust me, if you take the time to learn how to use each and every single one of these pieces, you're gonna be a much better furniture maker. All right, well that's it. I'm Tommy Mac. I'll see you next time.